History has produced countless kings, powerful emperors, legendary generals. But only one man built the largest contiguous land empire the world has ever seen. His armies conquered territories stretching from the Pacific Ocean to the edges of Europe. His name struck fear into entire civilizations. Some called him history's greatest military genius. Others remembered him as history's most ruthless conqueror. Even 8 centuries later, one question still divides historians. Who was Genghis Khan? Really? Was he a ruthless destroyer who left cities in ashes? Or a visionary leader who changed the course of human history forever? To understand the man, we must first understand the world that created him. Because Genghis Khan wasn't born into power. He wasn't raised inside a palace. He wasn't the son of an emperor. He entered the world as an ordinary boy in the cold and unforgiving grasslands of Mongolia. Around 1162, near the banks of the Anon River, a child named Temujin was born into the Borjigin clan. According to the secret history of the Mongols, the most important surviving source on his early life, the newborn arrived with a blood clot clutched in his tiny hand. Among the Mongols, many believed this was a sign that the child was destined to become a great warrior. At the time, no one could have imagined how true that belief would become. Life on the Mongolian steppe was unlike life anywhere else on Earth. There were no great cities, no stone castles, no permanent homes. Families lived inside portable felt tents called gairs, moving constantly in search of fresh grazing land for their horses, sheep, goats, and cattle. Children learned to ride before they could properly run. By the age of 6 or 7, many could already fire arrows from horseback. Survival wasn't taught. It was expected. Temujin's father, Yasuge, was a respected tribal leader. He hoped his son would one day lead the clan. But on the Mongolian steppe, power was never guaranteed. When Temujin was about 9 years old, Yasuge arranged his future marriage with a young girl named Bert, strengthening an alliance between two families. On his journey home, Yasuge accepted food from members of the rival Tatar tribe. They recognized him. Immediately, instead of attacking him openly, they poisoned his meal. He managed to return home, but only a few days. Later, he died. That single moment changed everything. Without Yasuge, the Borjigin family lost its protection. The clan abandoned Temujin, his mother Holan, and his brothers and sisters. Overnight, they went from respected tribal leaders to starving. Outcast, Holan refused to surrender. She searched endlessly for wild roots, berries, and fish just to keep her children alive. Some days, there was almost nothing to eat. Hunger became their closest companion. Those brutal years shaped Temujin forever. He learned that loyalty couldn't be bought. It had to. He earned. And he learned another lesson. In the harsh world of the Mongolian steppe. Only the strong survive. That belief would guide every decision he made for the rest of his life. But fate wasn't finished testing him. As Temujin grew older, a rival tribe, known as the Taishid, captured him. They locked a heavy wooden collar around his neck and displayed him as a prisoner. To everyone watching, his story appeared to be over. Yet this would become the first time the young Temujin proved something that would define his entire life. No matter how impossible the situation seemed, he never stopped looking for a way to escape the wooden collar around. Temujin's neck was meant to do more than imprison him. It was meant to destroy his spirit. Every village he passed, every warrior who looked at him, saw a defeated boy with no future. Taishid believed he would spend the rest of his life as their prisoner. They were wrong. One cold evening, as darkness slowly covered the Mongolian steppe, Temujin noticed the guards becoming careless. He didn't panic. He waited. When the perfect moment arrived, he ran. A heavy wooden collar slowed every step behind him. Shouts echoed across the plains. Horsemen spread out in every direction. The hunt had begun. Temujin reached a nearby river and hid beneath the water, breathing through the reeds growing along the bank. For hours, the warriors searched. Then something extraordinary happened. A man named Sorkinshira, a member of the very tribe hunting him, discovered the young fugitive. He could have claimed a reward. Instead, he chose compassion. Sorkinshira secretly hid Temujin inside his home, removed the heavy wooden collar, and later helped him escape. Years later, when Temujin ruled the greatest empire on earth, he never forgot that act of kindness. Unlike many rulers, he rewarded loyalty wherever he found it. Even if it came from a former enemy, that single decision would become one of the foundations of his empire. People followed Temujin not only because they feared him, but because they believed loyalty would always be rewarded. Soon after escaping, Temujin returned to marry Bert, the young woman promised to him years earlier. She wasn't just his wife. She became his closest advisor, his greatest source of strength, and the person he trusted above everyone else. But happiness didn't last. Only months after their marriage, the Merkit tribe attacked during the night. Their warriors burned tents, killed defenders, and kidnapped Bert for Temujin. This wasn't simply the loss of his wife. It was a test of leadership. At that moment, he didn't have a great army. He didn't command thousands of warriors. He had only a small group of loyal followers. Instead of charging into battle alone, he did something brilliant. He built alliances. Temujin sought help from Togrul, the powerful ruler of the Karaite tribe, and from his childhood blood brother, Jamuka. Together, their combined forces launched a surprise attack against the Merkits. The rescue was swift. Bert was brought home safely. Something much greater had happened. Warriors from different tribes had now fought under Temujin's command. They witnessed his courage, his calm under pressure, and his ability to unite people who had spent generations fighting one another. From that day forward, his reputation spread across the Mongolian steppe. More warriors abandoned their old chiefs and chose to follow Temujin instead, not because they were forced to, because they believed he was different. But success created jealousy, and the man who once called Temujin his brother would soon become his greatest rival, Jamuka. The friendship that had once united them was about to become one of the bloodiest rivalries in Mongolian history. Jamuka wasn't just another tribal leader. He was Temujin's Anda, a blood brother in Mongol culture. That bond was considered stronger than family itself. As children, they had sworn eternal loyalty to one another. The power has a way of changing people. As Temujin's influence grew, more and more warriors abandoned their traditional chiefs and joined his camp. They admired something different about him. Unlike other tribal leaders, Temujin didn't promote men simply because they came from noble families. He rewarded skill, courage, and loyalty. A poor shepherd could rise through the ranks if he proved himself in battle. For many ordinary Mongols, this was revolutionary. But for the old aristocracy, it was a direct threat. Jamuka believed leadership belonged only to noble bloodlines. Temujin believed any man could earn greatness. The disagreement soon turned into war. For years, two former brothers fought across the Mongolian steppe. Sometimes Temujin won. Sometimes he suffered painful defeats. Each battle taught him something new. He studied every mistake, improved every strategy, strengthened every alliance. Slowly, the balance of power began to change. One by one, the great Mongol tribes either surrendered or were defeated. Eventually, Jamuka found himself abandoned by many of his own followers. In an attempt to save themselves, several of his commanders betrayed him. They captured Jamuka and delivered him to Temujin, expecting a reward. Instead, Temujin was furious. He believed betrayal was one of the worst crimes imaginable. If a man would betray his own leader, he could never be trusted. Temujin ordered the traitors executed. Then he turned to Jamuka. He offered his old friend forgiveness. He even invited him to stand beside him once again, but Jamuka refused. According to Mongol tradition, he asked for an honorable death without blood being spilled. Temujin respected his final wish. With Jamuka gone, there was no rival powerful enough to challenge him. Then, in 1206, representatives from the Mongol tribes gathered for a great assembly known as a Kurultai. It was one of the most important moments in Asian history. There, Temujin received a new title, a title the world would never forget. Genghis Khan, although historians still debate its exact meaning, it is commonly understood as universal ruler or oceanic ruler. For the first time in history, the divided tribes of Mongolia stood united under a single leader. But uniting the Mongols was only the beginning. Genghis Khan looked beyond the endless grasslands, beyond the mountains, beyond the deserts. He saw wealthy kingdoms, protected by walls, filled with gold, silk, and unimaginable riches. And he believed no empire on earth was beyond his reach. The greatest conquests in history were about to begin. By the spring of 1209, the world beyond Mongolia was about to discover a terrifying new power. Genghis Khan didn't rush into war. He prepared for it. He studied his enemies, their strengths, their weaknesses, their politics, and then struck with overwhelming speed. His first major target was the Western Xia Kingdom in northern China. Its rulers believed the vast deserts surrounding their cities would stop any invasion. They were wrong. The Mongol cavalry crossed terrain that many armies considered impossible, appearing where no one expected them. City after city surrendered. Those that resisted paid a terrible price. But Genghis Khan understood something many conquerors ignored. Fear alone could never build an empire. He offered every city a choice. Surrender peacefully, and your people would be spared. Fight, and face complete destruction. News spread quickly. Soon, many cities opened their gates before a single Mongol arrow was fired. This strategy saved time, saved soldiers, and expanded his empire faster than anyone thought possible. After forcing Western Xia into submission, Genghis Khan turned his attention toward an even greater prize, the mighty Jin dynasty, one of the most powerful kingdoms in Asia. Its rulers commanded hundreds of thousands of soldiers. Their capital was protected by enormous walls. Their people believed no army from the northern grasslands could defeat them again. They underestimated the Mongols. In 1211, Genghis Khan invaded northern China. Instead of attacking one city after another, he divided his army into smaller mobile forces. Each moved independently, each struck without warning. While the Jin generals prepared for one Mongol army, 3 more appeared behind them. The Mongols didn't fight wars the traditional way. They moved faster than any army their enemies had ever seen. Each warrior carried several horses. When one horse became tired, he simply switched to another. This allowed Mongol cavalry to travel extraordinary distances every single day. Communication was just as impressive. Messengers raced between armies using fresh horses stationed across the empire. Orders that once took weeks to deliver now arrived within days. Military discipline was equally strict. Every 10 soldiers formed a unit. 10 units formed a larger group, then 100, 1,000, and eventually 10,000 warriors under a single commander. Every soldier knew exactly where he belonged. Every commander knew exactly what to do. There was almost no confusion, only precision. Perhaps Genghis Khan's greatest weapon was psychology. His armies often pretended to retreat. Their enemies believed victory was within reach. They charged forward, breaking their own formations. Then, without warning, the Mongols turned around, surrounded the pursuing army, and destroyed it completely. The tactic became legendary. Entire kingdoms fell for it, again and again, within only a few years. The Jin dynasty was losing city after city. The unstoppable empire of northern China was suddenly fighting for survival. Yet Genghis Khan wasn't satisfied. While his armies continued campaigning in China, events far to the west would soon trigger one of the most devastating military campaigns in human history. A single political mistake would bring the wrath of the Mongol Empire upon an entire civilization. The target would be the Khwarezmian Empire, and its ruler was about to make the worst decision of his life. The Khwarezmian Empire stretched across much of modern day Iran, Uzbekistan, Turkmenistan, and Afghanistan. It was wealthy, powerful, and strategically positioned along the Silk Road. At first, Genghis Khan had no intention of invading it. In fact, he wanted peace. Trade meant profit. War meant risk. So he sent a caravan of hundreds of merchants, carrying valuable goods into Khwarezmian territory. But when they reached the city of Otrar, everything changed. The city's governor accused the merchants of being Mongol spies. Without waiting for proof, he ordered every one of them arrested. Then he executed them. When news reached Genghis Khan, he still chose diplomacy. Instead of sending an army, he sent 3 ambassadors. Their mission was simple: demand justice, punish the governor, and avoid war. Shah of Khwarezm made a decision that would destroy his empire. He executed one ambassador and humiliated the others before sending them back. For Genghis Khan, this wasn't merely an insult. According to Mongol tradition, ambassadors were sacred. Killing them was one of the greatest crimes imaginable. The moment he heard what had happened, he made his decision. The Khwarezmian Empire would disappear in 1219. One of the greatest military campaigns in history began. Rather than marching directly toward the Shah's capital, Genghis Khan divided his army into several independent forces, each traveled along a different route. Some crossed vast deserts. Others passed through mountain ranges thought impossible for large armies. The Khwarezmian generals never knew where the next attack would come from. One by one, their strongest cities fell. Bukhara, Samarkand, Urgench, places once considered impossible to conquer, collapsed before the Mongol advance. When Genghis Khan entered Bukhara, he reportedly gathered the city's nobles inside the main mosque. According to Persian chroniclers, he declared, "If you had not committed great sins, God would not have sent a punishment like me upon you." Whether those exact words were spoken remains debated, but their impact on history has never faded. The Shah fled from city to city, unable to stop the invasion. His enormous empire, built over decades, collapsed in only a few years, even after the Shah escaped. Genghis Khan refused to let him disappear. He ordered 2 of his greatest generals, Sabbatai and Jib, to hunt him down. Their pursuit covered thousands of miles, crossing mountains, rivers, and deserts. It became one of the longest cavalry pursuits in military history. Eventually, the Shah died while hiding on a small island in the Caspian Sea, but the Mongol campaign didn't end there. Sabbatai and Jib pushed even farther west. They defeated armies in the Caucasus, crushed powerful coalitions, and reached the borders of Eastern Europe. For the first time, European kingdoms realized a terrifying new force was moving toward them. A force unlike anything they had ever faced, and this was only the beginning of the Mongol expansion. When Genghis Khan died in 1227. Many believed his empire would collapse. History had seen it happen before. Powerful rulers died, their sons fought each other, and great empires disappeared within a generation. But that wasn't what happened. Before his death, Genghis Khan had carefully prepared for the future. Instead of allowing chaos, he divided responsibilities among his sons and trusted generals. His third son, Genghis Khan, was chosen as the next great Khan. Under Genghis' leadership, the Mongol Empire became even larger. Mongol armies invaded Eastern Europe. They defeated powerful kingdoms in Russia. They crushed the armies of Poland and Hungary. They expanded deeper into China. Within only a few decades, the Mongol Empire stretched across nearly 24 million square kilometers. It became the largest contiguous land empire in human history. No ruler before Genghis Khan, and no ruler after him, ever controlled so much connected territory. His greatest achievement wasn't simply conquest. He changed the world in ways many people don't realize. The Silk Road flourished like never before. Trade between East and West increased dramatically. Paper, gunpowder, printing, scientific knowledge, and new technologies traveled across continents faster than ever before. Merchants could travel thousands of miles under Mongol protection. Ideas spread. Cultures mixed. The world became more connected than it had ever been. Yet, his legacy remains deeply controversial. Many cities that resisted the Mongols were completely destroyed. Historians estimate that millions of people died during the Mongol conquests. Some modern researchers believe the total may have reached tens of millions, although exact numbers remain uncertain because medieval records often exaggerated casualties. In many nations, Genghis Khan became a symbol of fear, but in Mongolia, he is remembered very differently. Today, his face appears on Mongolia's currency. His name is honored across the country. The international airport in Ulaanbaatar bears his name. Statues of Genghis Khan stand proudly across the nation. The largest of them, the Genghis Khan equestrian statue, rises nearly 40 meters above the steppe, a reminder of the man who united the Mongol tribes and changed world history forever. Modern science has revealed another astonishing fact. Genetic research suggests that millions of people alive today may share a common male ancestor linked to Genghis Khan's family line. One famous study estimated that roughly 1 in every 200 men alive today carries a Y chromosome, lineage that likely originated from his extended family. Although historians continue debating the exact interpretation, the research highlights just how enormous his historical impact may have been. More than 800 years after his death, books are still written about him, films are still made about him, military academies still study his battlefield tactics. Historians still argue over a question that may never have a single answer. Was Genghis Khan history's greatest conqueror, or history's most feared destroyer? Perhaps he was both. One thing, however, is beyond debate. A starving boy named Temujin, who once hunted for food just to survive, rose from the harsh grasslands of Mongolia to build the greatest land empire the world has ever known. The story proves that history is not always written by those born into power. Sometimes, it is written by those who refuse to surrender. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this documentary, don't forget to subscribe for more true stories from history. And in our next documentary, we'll uncover the unbelievable rise and fall of Napoleon Bonaparte, the man who conquered Europe, crowned himself emperor, and lost everything at Waterloo. Until next time, keep exploring history.